Hello, lovely souls. Welcome back to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm Christina Lorero, your host, certified angel messenger, certified angel Reiki master teacher. I am so excited for you to hear this episode. I have Alicia Farricielli, an intuitive inner child healer. She does amazing work with many people to heal their inner child. If you don't know what an inner child is, we're going to talk about that in this episode. Examples on how to heal your inner child, exercises you can do with your inner child. If this interests you, stay tuned for this episode. Hello, lovely souls. Welcome back to Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm super excited about this episode. I have Alicia here. She is an inner child healer, and she's going to talk about all things inner child. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here. Yeah.
Perfect. So let's start with an introduction. Who are you? What do you do?
So I'm Alicia. I am a holistic lifestyle coach. I specialize in intuition and inner child work. So I work with clients one-on-one in a group setting through courses and retreats as well. So, and of course, I do energy work and breath work and meditation with my clients. So, yeah.
Perfect. And I always ask my guests just to kind of sneak peek on your spiritual awakening.
Funny. Yeah, so I grew up in a very conservative, I was a preacher's daughter, Christian, super conservative preacher's daughter, Christian. So I had a little bit of the spiritual aspect in a certain different way growing up. But I think my awakening was probably 4 years ago when I just started to question things and be like, this is just not, the things that I had been taught were not lining up. I mean, I'd gone through the whole Christian faith, and I'm not dissing that at all. And I just think things were kind of not lining up. There's some questions I have. And so I started digging deeper and deeper. And it was really, I guess, about 2.5 years ago when I got introduced to energy work that it just, bam, my third eye just opened up. And it was almost a very natural thing. So I've had trainings and stuff too, but it was very natural. So I always like kind of joke to myself. I'm like, I must have been doing this in a past life or something. It's like people are like, how do you do this? Like it takes, I can't like tap into it intuitively to myself. And so I was just kind of naturally able to do that and to start, I guess, because I grew up also being told to listen
Right.
more than speak. And so now I'm working on my voice more. And so since I was told that, I feel like I'm very good at able to very good and go deep into listening.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you take over and do inner child one-on-one. So this is for anybody who does not know what inner child means or want to know more about it. Alicia's a really good coach, so I'm going to let her take over.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks. So let's talk about inner child one-on-one is basically remember when you're like 2 or 3, maybe 4 years old, where your child, the way that you viewed the world was typically without joy until it's something traumatic. We call it big and small. They're big and small traumas, and they are different in the way that we preach these. Think about the way that you thought about the world. You just kind of floated through. You're very curious, very playful. Not think you didn't think bad about yourself. You weren't questioning yourself.
Right.
You weren't wondering why you were not good enough or why you had to have approval. You wanted your parents' approval or quite approval because a natural thing. So think of that. That's kind of your inner child. And so it's not literally a child inside of you, but it's who you were at a very young age. And so inner child work really brings you back to that point. And so as we progress through life, we go through, we have our teachers, even our parents. We have the best parents in the world, and we can't blame our parents anymore. This is why we do the work now. Most of the time, they did the best they could do with the resources they were given. So we have to acknowledge that. And as a parent, I hope our parent gets to acknowledge that one too. So when we go, so going back to kind of thinking about, things that happened in your past, you could have had a teacher that got on to you. I remember when I was in second grade, I had a teacher that I don't remember even know what I did. I think I said something or spoke, and I didn't know I was not supposed to be speaking. And she wrote my name on the board. That was very detrimental to me. Some kids are like, oh, that's like they did best. I never got in trouble. I was a quiet, perfect little, try to be perfect little girl.
Same here.
never ever wanted to get in trouble in school. And so that traumatized me. That's a small trauma. A large trauma is where you have, some type of abuse. It could be mental, physical, some spiritual abuse. I definitely consider that a large trauma. Sexual abuse, things that unfortunately happen to children when they're in an innocent state of mind. So those things are more bigger traumas. And so that still comes in with inner child work as well. So when we get to a certain point in our life, we start growing up, and we become adults. And so as an adult, we're not the same person as we came into the world as. And that could be good and bad. We're supposed to continue to grow. Sometimes that growth is stunted because of the big and little traumas that we've had in our life. Now, if you had a large trauma, please reach out and get some licensed therapy work. I mean, I'm going to put that out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
And do the other work, work I'm talking about as well too. But you definitely want to get some more in-depth work to heal from that. So as we go through life, and we come to a point to where we find out we can't hold on to relationships well. We're in and out of relationships. We have no self-worth. We're putting up with things. We have no boundaries. Putting up with things that we know that don't make us feel good. Don't make us feel worthy. We have no self-worth. There's so many people that are suffering from these things. And a lot of times it came from the things that happened in your childhood. Things that trigger you from, if you have a coworker that just gets on your nerves so bad, sometimes that can be triggered from childhood. It could be something that you were taught. For instance, you have a really loud coworker. If you were taught to be quiet and small as a child, anyone who's loud and boisterous and speaks their voice in their mind, your told views don't line up with that. So your inner child's going, no, 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 no. Basically your subconscious going, no, 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 no. I can't handle this. This is like too much. Well, that person may not even be that loud and boisterous. It just may be your perception of it because of what you've gone through. And so, yeah. So that's kind of summarized the inner child. And that's just kind of an example there. Things we can do all kinds of things for our inner child. First of all, we want to love our inner child. We don't want to criticize it as you would as you would normally. People would, you have a child that's crying because it's scared. You're not going to get mad. You're not going to get onto that child. You're going to comfort it and love it. Because what happens if you tell the child to shut up or tell the child you shut it down, or you just if you completely ignore the child, what happens? It gets louder and more fearful, and it doesn't solve the problem. So we want to treat our inner child like a baby, like you would just holding a baby. You want to hold it and love it and thank it for showing up, because all it's trying to do is protect you. It's not trying to make you a bad person, or make you miserable in this life. It's just trying to protect you. Because, So the great news about inner child work is we can learn to parent ourselves. So if you were not parented the way that you wanted to be parented, then you can go back and reparent yourself. You can love on that inner child, and you can almost rewrite that entire past. And
that's amazing.
Yeah. Starts in baby steps too. So, looking at things you can do, like first thing is start to learn your self-worth. And that's really hard for us to do. Start to learn your self-worth. And you can do that through journaling. Like, what do you love about yourself? Everybody likes at least one little thing. What if people told you that they admire about you? Go off of that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes that's the hardest part, is accepting compliments from other people, especially if you have inner child problems.
Yeah, especially if you were told as a child to be humble and to do everything for everyone else, and not to put yourself last. That's very hard for you to make compliments, and then the people pleasing comes in that too. So start trying to love yourself. Give yourself a hug every day, and just tell yourself, even if it doesn't feel authentic, I love you. Look in the mirror and look at yourself and say, I love you. You're an amazing person. You've come this far. You've done this many great things. I love you. And it doesn't matter how many bad things or whatever you've done in your past. You can still love yourself and still love your inner child. Do that and start with that. The next thing you want to do is to start journaling and going into deep. I love meditation. I think meditation is great. I'm going to be people like, I can't learn. I'm going to call that BS. If people can learn. If I can learn to meditate, then anybody can learn to meditate. So you're going to go into start meditating, or just start journaling and praying, whatever your modality is, to really start getting into yourself and your thoughts and feelings, and sit with those feelings for a while. If you need to cry that out. Just start crying if you're joyful about your childhood. But if you feel like something is just off, like I only remember great things about my childhood, but I can't get over this certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
Recognize that certain thing and just take it back to a place where it probably came from my childhood. I think the next step we're going into is going to be learning to forgive yourself, and to forgive yourself for not loving yourself. Forgive yourself for not, like, not acknowledging that inner child. But also, we're going to forgive our situations. We're going to forgive our parents, our people, everybody else. We're going to start forgiving. And by forgiveness, I don't mean we're wiping out the situation. We're saying, oh, it's great. It's okay that happened. Because it's not okay that happened. However, forgiveness is tying that bond from someone and letting them take the control over. And so we're announcing now we're not letting that control our lives anymore at all. So it's a process. So every day start forgiving. And then go into that inner child and listen to it. Because we don't listen to our inner child. We just shove it down, shove it down, shove it down. It's just annoying. Like, I should be this way. It doesn't mean you have to be that way. Start listening to your inner child and just love on it, and give it the care and the love and the safety that it needs. Our inner child wants to feel safe. That's really what it comes down to, safe and loved. And so if we can do that ourselves, then we're going to become a whole different human.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember a academic coach up in college when I was doing my college year. She said, love yourself as if you had a daughter. And that changed my whole perspective of viewing myself. Like, I was always a good grades in school, and college got a little harder, and she's like, you got a bad grade. It's okay. What would you tell your daughter? So that is just tying right into inner child, and how we have to treat ourselves as if the inner child is, because it is us.
Yeah.
So I think people don't realize that we all have an inner child. I think people are blocking it out. And then they wonder why they are the way they are. And you have to accept and forgive. And that takes a lot of time and a lot of work.
Oh, yeah.
With working with your spirit team, working with your angels. Archangel Michael works a lot with the inner child. So you can always work with him. You can do automatic writing. I find that's a really good way. You can just channel your inner child and just talk to the inner child.
Yeah. Just have a conversation. I'm actually coming out, I'm putting together now a journal that's going to be 90 days worth of letters to write to your inner child.
Amazing.
So that should hopefully, in the next 6 months, hopefully have that out on Amazon for people to purchase. But yeah, so sit down and write a letter to your inner child. How do you feel? Put all that anger, put all the emotions, put all the joy, everything that's coming out, put it on a piece of paper. You can throw it away. You can tear it up. You can burn it, whatever you want to do. Nobody has to read it, or you can keep it.
Nope.
I keep mine because I love to go back and see my progress of it. But if you don't feel safe, tear that thing up. And you're still releasing that, and you're still comforting that inner child because it's being heard. It just needs to be heard. It doesn't have to be fixed. It's not asking for a fix. It's just asking to be heard and to be loved and comforted.
Yeah. Yeah, the way that Spirit has presented the inner child is basically a child form of myself, but if it's in a good state, it's got like a little glow to it.
Yeah.
And then if it needs a little love, it's a little bit dimmer. I'm not sure how everybody else sees it, but that is a way for me to be like, oh, I need to spend a little bit more time with my inner child today.
Yeah, I love that. When my inner child acts up, I can literally kind of feel, it's funny, not really feel inside of me growing up, but it's like Why am I doing this when I know I'm going down the rabbit hole of comparing myself with others? I know I'm going down the rabbit hole of not feeling good about myself. It's like, oh, this is just my inner child inside me that just wants to be acknowledged and loved and know that they're worthy enough and they're okay. And so us
Yeah.
just give it that love. And I literally put my hands on my heart and just close my eyes and just talk to it and show it love and just breathe deeply. And it works every single time.
Yeah, and that's all it wants. It just wants love
Yeah.
with a passion. It's not asking to like be, to erase the past because we can't erase the past, but it's looking for love. And I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just love and compassion. That's all it's asking for. And just some time to be spent. It's gonna be with you the entire lifetime. So you might as well spend time with it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It definitely wants the love. I had a thought. I'm sorry. Completely. It'll come back to me in a minute. But yeah, just definitely spending that time with it and comforting it and letting it know that we don't have to, things that happened to us before, again, we're not saying it's okay. And we don't want to erase that from that. But your inner child needs to know that it was not okay for that. They need to know that what happened to them was not okay. That was not acceptable, and that they can move forward on it. So I like to look at the inner child as like you have the inner child and you have your teenage child. And so
Mhm.
you want to move them up to your adult child. So move them
Right.
through each little situation, kind of moving your inner child into those phases. But they definitely needs to know that it was not okay that these things happened to you.
No, no.
But we don't want to dwell on it, and we're not victimizing becoming ourselves. And that's when we start victimizing ourselves is because we're stuck in that. And their inner child doesn't feel like they've been seen and heard and it's fair for them. But once they start seeing that and feeling heard and knowing that it was not okay for them and that you recognize that, they're going to start healing after that.
Right. And what spirit's bringing through is sometimes you'll feel that the inner child needs a little love because things that don't take you off as much take you off. It just you can feel it. Like you're like the example you were saying about the loud person. Normally that wouldn't phase you, but your inner child is just a little wound up on that day, and you just need to give it a little extra love when you go home.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also kind of cool to looking at inner child from that, and you could start seeing other people's perspectives. And so when you see someone who's acting out and acting in a way that you not appropriate for societal or whatever or whatever, um, know that their inner child's probably hurting. And so you can have compassion for them. I don't necessarily walk up and be like, your inner child's hurting. They're probably not going to be very receptive to that. But just by knowing and acknowledging that with them, you can start showing more compassion and love, and it makes the situations a little bit easier to handle.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually never ever thought about the other person's inner
Yeah.
child hurting. And that's just when you are just kind and friendly like you always are, and you just, like you said, you can't say their inner child needs work, so you just
Yeah.
try to lift them up, try to make them smile.
Yeah. Yeah. Just show them some love.
Absolutely. Are there any other exercises that we can do with our inner child besides journaling and meditating?
Go out and play. We're in the summer. It's like today we're recording summer solstice, which is so exciting.
Yes.
Go play with your inner child. Grab a coloring book. If you don't like to draw or doodle, just grab a coloring book and some crayons and just color all over the page. You don't have to color in the lines. Be like a kid. Bring out that creativity in yourself. Go dance. Go sing. Go do it. Jump rope. Whatever you need to do to bring that joy and that child like spirit back to you, because that's really who we are. Is we still have it inside of us is still that childlike spirit. It's just been pushed down and pushed down and pushed down because we're supposed to be this way and that way and put into a box. So step out of that box. And if you're not comfortable doing it for other people, go do it in a closed space, safe space, wherever you feel safe to completely let that child out. I actually did it this morning. Put some music on, and I have this thing where I'm just starting to shake all the bad energy going off. And I was in my
Mm.
room. Nobody could see. My husband wasn't here, so I was just shaking and dancing and just acting crazy. And my neighbors saw me. They probably were like, something's wrong with her. But I was able to do that and to release that. And I tell you, I felt so good after I did that. And it was such a safe space for me to do it. And my inner child just came out. It was like I felt all just complete like a stressful week. And so after I did that, it just released, of course, released a lot of energy going, like negative energy inside of me. But I was able to let that child just play. And yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. That's really fascinating. I didn't even think of like doing childlike things, not like, in a weird way, but like coloring or dancing or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to try that.
Yeah. Just go get a coloring book and start coloring. Doing whatever you can go back and look at like whatever as a child, what did you like to do? Was it something artistic? Was it sports wise? Go pick up a basketball and play basketball if that's your thing. Whatever you like to do as a child, go do that. Also, getting into nature helps connect with that inner child. So get into nature. I suggest doing it alone. Take a long, safe walk through nature, and
Hmm.
just connect with the trees, connect with the birds. Watch how the birds interact. They're chirping and they're just naturally doing things. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to the way that nature just works. Like I live in the ocean, I'll just sit there and watch the waves come in. That's so calming, even to my inner child, and it brings such a joy and just makes me want to just be happy. That's because that's really what it is.
Yeah.
It's creating this happiness inside of you.
Yeah. I mean, the inner child, that's all it wants. It just wants happiness and love.
Yeah.
Um, I had a thought, I totally lost it. It must be the thing today.
It must be.
Um, okay, I got it back. What Archangel Michael wants everyone to know is that your inner child doesn't hate you. It's a part of you, and it just wants some time. It's not going to hate you forever. It's just a little sad, and then it's going to get that glow back, and you're going to feel different. And your inner child is just going to love you even more than it already does. I don't even think that's possible, but
Yeah.
that's all it wants.
You're a team. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a team with your inner child. You take care of your inner child, it takes care of you. No, it's going to act out. It's kind of like, I mean, really think of it as a parent-child relationship. You know, the more you take care, the more you love and secure a child feels, the happier they're going to be and the more well behaved.
Mhm.
Say well behaved, whatever,
It's true.
whatever. The more they're gonna be more pleasant to be around. But if you're shoving it down and criticizing it all the time, it's going to turn into just resentfulness. Yeah. So again, parent it as you would want to be parented. Where were you missing in your life? Were you missing security? Did you grow up in a very unstable home? Start calming that down and giving some space. You can have it be in the most wildly bizarre situation and still have inner peace and still feel
Yeah.
secure. Start grounding yourself, rooting, get back in nature again. That will totally put you. That's the best thing for grounding, I believe. Start doing that. Was your inner child not listened to? Start talking to it. Start voicing your opinion. Were you not allowed to dress the way you wanted to do or wear your hair like purple, pink, whatever? It's like, go do it. As long as your
Yeah.
job will let you. you know? under
That's true.
yeah, go do it. Go find what do you want to how did your child want to express themselves? And so we look at our child, how did they express themselves when they were 2, 3, 4? How did it want to express itself when it was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? And then teenage years, how did you really want to be seen and heard? What did you want to be known for? That you were. Think about those things and start implementing some things.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be big things. It can be little things.
Yeah, little things. I always wanted to play piano when and I still haven't done this, but I always wanted to play piano when I was little. My parents never
Mhm.
had time to take me to lessons. It hit me one day and I'm like, why can't I learn that now? I'm 44 years old. I'm like, why can I not learn that now?
Yeah, you're totally good.
Why do I have to sit there and be like, well, I didn't get to learn piano as a kid, so I'm never going to learn to do that. There's no reason why I can't go learn that. And that would bring out that inner child with me. Now, I have a little more time constraint. I'm like the parent now. I don't have the time for that. But eventually one day, you know, that's something I do want to learn. And so I've recognized that that's something in part of me that I need that creativity, something inside of me that was screaming for that as a child. That I can reparent myself and say, you know what, Alicia, you have everything that you need to do this. And I support you in this. So let's go do it. I will spend all the time and energy that you need
Yeah.
to let you do this. And just by me saying that to my inner child, it calmed down. I didn't have to literally go learn to do the piano. It was just something that was screaming at me and I was getting angry about.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was able to calm that down and be like, you know what? Forget this. I can learn to do this myself. I can parent myself the way that I needed to be parented. And I'm not like criticizing my parents. They were very busy, but
Yeah. And that's the whole forgiveness part, is
yeah,
forgiving your past. I mean, we can't erase it, but we can only get better from here. And I think what Spirit is trying to bring through is that if if we recognize our inner child and we love it, imagine when you have children, or if you have children, that relationship as well. If you can't imagine it within yourself as an inner child, think of it as a child you have, or you want to have, and how would you treat that? Um, how will you treat that child? But also, like when you have kids, that's your inner child coming out and being like, you know, I want this to be different than what it was.
yeah,
And I think that is really important.
yeah. Your kids want to jump on the swing set and want you to play with them. Go do it.
Go do it.
Because
Yeah.
it's not only good for them, it's so good for you. They want to run around and play. Is your physical ability? Go do that. Whatever you're able to do. They want to color. Take the time to do that because it's not only benefiting your children, it's benefiting you. And so once you start to heal this inner child, you're starting lots of generational patterns that have been brought
Mm-hmm.
up and passed on and passed on and passed on. And when you start doing that work for your inner child, you're breaking those generational patterns. Even if your children, my children are grown, I'm still breaking generational patterns, even though they're grown.
Right.
Even though if you don't have children now, you're still breaking those patterns for future children. If you have children now, you're still breaking them. And that's so important, especially today,
Yeah.
to start breaking that down and to start giving, you know, the next generation more of hope. I guess the best way I could say.
Yeah. And these days, hope is sometimes the only thing that we hold on to.
Yeah.
So it's really important to give hope to us and to our children and our inner child, because that's life. I mean, right?
Yeah. I was listening to another podcast today. It was saying, I forget, it was like Linda Doyle, I think it was her podcast, was talking about how we've working so hard to like overcome this trauma and stuff, but every single day we're like given more and more and more and more and more. And it kind of she got down to the end of the podcast and just like, you know what? I used to get like the guest speaker was like, I used to get so mad at my ancestors. Like, why do I have to be the one to break this just generational trauma? But she's like, they're the ones crossing over from other countries, literally migrating over, you know, overseas,
Yes.
risking their lives to come over here. Why would it not be me? This is my waters to go through. So I thought that was very
Mm-hmm.
profound how we want to be like, well, why do I have to be the one to work on my inner child or have to heal this or have to do change patterns, you know? Why
Yeah.
not? Why not you? Everybody else has gone
Exactly.
our ancestors have gone through so much different harder. We're in a hard times.
Mm-hmm.
We're in very beautiful light driven hard time. I'm not one to be like, oh, it's like doom and gloom. I'm very like total opposite. But it's very hard
Yes.
emotional times going on now. Very a lot of polarity. But our
Yeah.
ancestors did the same thing and they did the best they could. And you're gonna do the best that you can in this life.
And that's all you can do.
That's all you can do. And to not expect another point I really loved that hit home to me was we don't have to do all this. We're never gonna do all this in our this lifetime.
No.
We put so much pressure on ourselves. And so another thing is like when you start doing the work and start doing inner child work, it's not one and done or a quick process. This is years of like peeling and peeling layers and peeling layers. And there's always more layers to peel. But when you come
Yeah.
to a certain point, those layers start to look like it's almost like you're peeling off something magical. And you start seeing the stuff that's underneath it, even though it's tough. And you're like, oh, cool, there's something else I need to work on because I'm going to be so much brighter and stronger. And so just start doing that inner work. Just start it. And once you start it and keep at it, you're going to see such a different change. And it's going to be everything. It's always, always, always worth it.
Absolutely. When you were talking about the petals, the my spirit team was actually showing me like taking petals, and then when the closer the next layer gets a little lighter. So like they were showing me kind of how I described how my inner child is lighter when it's happy.
Yeah.
When you're pulling the layers, you see more, you peek more at the light. So it takes time. And I don't want anybody to get discouraged that that's like a one-time deal and your inner child healed. That's not it. We can't go to one therapy session and feel completely healed either.
Yeah. And think
And
about
that's how we need to treat the inner child. Is it's not just one therapy session. It's gonna take a daily work. Just like at your job, you work every day, maybe because you want to, maybe because you don't, but there's some end goal that you're trying to get, and your end goal is to heal your inner child. And your inner child, like I said earlier, loves you just the way you are. I mean, it
yeah.
chose us because it's us.
Right. Right. It should be your favorite thing that you go to besides spirit God, whatever. But it should be
Yeah.
the thing. It should be your favorite thing. Like you should just hug this thing and just treat it like it's so special. It's such a special part of you that again, it just wants to be loved. That's all I can say.
It does, and it's a special bond that you can't break because it is your inner child. I
Yeah.
mean, that's it. It's
Yeah.
you, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I love this conversation so much. Um, what else do you have for anybody that doesn't know about inner child work?
Wow. There are tons of resources on YouTube. I have resources on my website as well. There are lots of there's a lot of fluff around inner child work. It's kind of like a lot of fluff around other stuff. You can
Hmm.
have this book and like get this book and it's going to tell you what. Yes. So start with those books. Start with something very simple if you're a little bit hesitant to get into it and you're like something I need to work on but a little hesitant to it. Get into something and just get a little familiar with what it is. And then again, start looking into yourself. Start really doing the digging work. Start questioning. So when I go through a questioning, I'll be like, why do I feel this way? Okay, how do I feel? I feel lonely. Do I really feel lonely? No, I feel a little. Actually, I'm scared that this is going to happen.
Hmm.
I'm never going to find another partner. I'm never going to do that. Something, I'm always going to be alone forever.
Yeah.
That's a fear. You're not, loneliness is not really the key thing. Well, why do you feel that way? Well, is it maybe because your third grade boyfriend told you that you were ugly and he broke up with you, or some kid threw a stick at you or something and called you ugly or said you'll never amount, your parents may have told you then you'll never amount to anything more than this. Those are things. Start thinking about that and think about how that made you feel. And you could typically, when we start doing the work and really going deep inside ourselves and we're stop ignoring the way it made us feel, start listening to yourself. View yourself as like that child, that third grader. What were the thoughts and emotions? What do you remember from that? And that's why I say meditation is so great. Just close your eyes and just think about that memory. You have to go back into these memories.
Yeah.
And I'm going to full disclosure, if it traumatizes you too much, you want to do this with a licensed therapist or a coach, somebody that can a qualified person that can walk you through this. You don't want to do this if it's
No.
too traumatic for you and puts you in that. So just full disclosure, but start looking into those things. Why does it make you feel? And then decide, you have to make the decision. Can I forgive the situation? Can I recognize that this was because their third grade, the boy threw the stick at me because his parents were treating him bad, or he didn't feel worthy about himself, so he had to throw a stick at me and make fun of me to make himself feel better, which is typically the situation when people judge people and they treat people without love and respect like that.
Yeah.
So really go into that, and then you have to make that decision. Am I going to forgive this? Am I going to forgive this person? Is it worth it for me to hold on to this forever? Because literally what you're doing is holding on to the time that you pass away. Is it worth that? Is it worth for me? And think about how silly that is to hold on to something. I'm talking about small traumas now. To hold on to something because a kid hit me in the back of the head with a stick and it hurt my feelings. It's not worth that. To me, it's not. That wasn't stuff like that didn't happen, but that was not worth it to me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to choose to forgive him and to recognize it and to acknowledge the fact with my inner child that, hey, it was not okay. That was not okay that he did that. However, I forgive him and I send him love and I send him grace. And literally in your heart, try to send as much as you can to send out that love. And so once you do that, then go back into your child and say, can I forgive the situation? Yes. Can I rewrite this situation? As there was a traumatized boy that threw a stick at me, and I feel really sorry for him. How much better does that feel than the boy hit me and told me I was ugly, and so therefore I can never find another date and I'm going to be lonely forever? We go down these, it sounds funny, but we go down these rabbit holes so quickly.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, within seconds, we can be down in a whole rabbit hole and then we're completely dead. And it's like it's like something in third grade and the kid probably doesn't even, thing is, kid probably doesn't even recognize that he threw that stick at you and hit you. He moved on from that. He's got other stuff to deal with. So we can write that story in our head, in our mind, in our inner child and tell our child, this is what happened. Okay. But that doesn't mean that I'm unlovable because he has trauma going on or he had something that caused him to do that. That means I'm probably lovable. That's a start to healing.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful example of going into a meditation and just asking these questions. For me, I like to have a journal next to me when I meditate. Feel free to do that as well. Sometimes for me, I don't really remember my meditations, but if I write it down as I'm meditating, then you can look back at it and be like, oh, that's what happened. And I also want people to realize that it doesn't take, like I said earlier, it doesn't take one therapy session, it doesn't take one meditation. So start with those questions. Mm-hmm. If you don't get a response, then you just come back to it on a different day. Maybe your inner child wasn't ready to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And the more that you do the work, the more things are going to come up. That can sound so scary, but we can't heal those if we don't acknowledge them and recognize them and bring them to existence.
Right.
We keep burying them down. They're still there. Issues don't go away. It's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on something. Well, I'm okay right now. Yes, you're okay right now, but it's still there. It's not going to heal. So when you rip the Band-Aid off, you have an open wound. We want to continue to heal the wound so we don't have to put the Band-Aid over it anymore.
It's like sweeping under the rug. Eventually, you're going to sweep so much, you're going to have a mountain under the rug.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're going to find that when you're working with your inner child, you thought that let's say this situation was an inner child issue, but you might find that something else that you haven't thought about in X amount of years comes up because that was something that happened with your inner child. So I don't want people to assume that it's one particular situation or a couple situations.
Yeah.
It can be a bunch of really small traumas, small T's, and it feels and it will build upon. So take your time with it. Don't just try to rush it.
You can't rush it, and you're going to put yourself into another traumatized situation.
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, like little bits at a time with that. Yeah, for sure. And again, you can call in spirit. I call in like, hey, what am I holding on to that needs to be released and go? What trauma, like the little traumas am I holding on to that's causing me to especially if you're in a certain situation. What is the little traumas, and just sit into it. And I promise you, when you'll know. If you listen long enough, you will be told, because spirit wants you to heal.
Absolutely.
Doesn't want these little traumas still inside of you. So if you ask for the help, we'll be there.
Yeah. And if you have fear about it, talk to your spirit team, especially Archangel Michael. He's very secure, and I do like little worry ceremonies where I give him my worries and he just takes them away. So give him the fears if you're fearful of going back and looking at your inner child. Because I understand, like, trauma is trauma, no matter how big or small. But like we said, if it's a big trauma, definitely go to a licensed therapist or someone who can help you in that matter, and your spirit team will be there with you during the therapy session. So um, it's very, very important to get the help that you need.
Yeah, and I love that you wrote to that. You can also, if you have any fears inside of you, pick up a piece of paper and start writing about those fears.
Mm-hmm.
Just keep writing. Why do I fear this way? Well, this and this and this. Well, what are you fearful of? And when you keep going down, then you're going to realize there's really nothing to be fearful of.
Yes.
The more that you dig into it, it's really digging until you get to that gold mine
Yeah.
of what it is. And then it's like you have to do the work to pull it out.
Yeah.
So when you pull it out, you're going to see how beautiful it is. And you'll always have that. And your whole entire life changes. Imagine if you were just broke, and you picked up a shovel and you're just digging. And then you found this treasure chest full of $2 million worth of gold in there. How is that life changing for you? Well, you're not just going to say, okay, it's going to magically pop out. You have to pull it out. You have to do the work to get it out. But when you open that chest up, your life has changed. It's so much more joyful and so much more blissful, because you have that now inside of you. And you have that tool. It's a tool you have inside of you to do other hard work that comes around. And once you know that I did this hard work, I can do it again. I can do it again and again and again and again. And the more you do it, the more confident you get. It's a skill.
Yeah.
That you build.
It's just like a tool you add to your toolbox.
Yeah.
Alicia, this was a beautiful, beautiful conversation. I want to wrap up with you telling everybody where they can find you, any offerings that you have currently.
Yeah. So you can find me at aliciafarricielli.com, and I'm going to spell that for you because it's a long last name. It's ALICIAFARRICIELLI. And if you're seeing on YouTube, if I don't know if it shows up, my website's on my Zoom thing here. Feel free to do that. You can find me there. You can find me Facebook, Instagram, under my name, YouTube. I do have a small channel that's building. I have a podcast myself, Intuitive Revolution Podcast. You can find me on Spotify, Apple. You can actually, whatever messages you send through there, go straight to me as well. I do have an inner child workshop coming up. The 6-week workshop. We're starting August 1st. So you can find information on my website. And if you join a little bit later in, you can get caught back up. So this will be a recorded thing that you'll be able to purchase on an ongoing basis. I do one-on-one coaching as well. If you have any type of needs, we can have free consultation. You can find that on my website as well. And then I have an inner child workshop inner child retreat in Asheville, North Carolina at October 24th to 27th. You can find a link to that from my website, but also if you go to elevateoasisretreats.com, you can find all the information there.
That's amazing, Alicia. You're doing so many great things. And like you said, you only had your spiritual awakening 4 years ago, and look at how much you're doing.
I feel like I'm catching up. I've got years to catch up for now.
But you're doing great, great things.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Let's tune in next. Thank you, lovely souls, for tuning into this week's episode with Alicia Farricielli about the inner child. If this resonated with you, please leave a review of the podcast. I want this podcast to reach to as many people as possible. The inner child work is very important work that we all need to do. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below, and I will send them to Alicia. Thank you very much, beautiful souls. Let's meet up next Monday.